Making my short film on the imagination was the hardest project of the semester. I set out to explore the anti-intellectual movement in America and why it is that we are so unwilling to explore and pursue intelligence, why we can't commit to it, why we don't like to read, why we don't appreciate smart humor. So initially, I was thinking about things like the mass-produced education that arose out of the industrial age and things like that. But the more I explored that, the more I started to think about the imagination and how that's really what we're lacking. As a culture, the only reason we started pursuing mass-produced education is because we were fearful. I think a great deal of our culture is founded on fear. We make decisions out of fear. We lead out of fear. And I think all of that comes back to our inability to use our imagination, to know that there's another way, to see outside of the box. So then I started exploring the imagination, and I was convinced that I wanted to use all of my own footage. But I didn't know how to tell a story about something so obtuse and so other. So I took my family to Washington, D.C., and we decided to go to some monuments. The city is crawling with statues of different historical figures, all of whom are revolutionary in some way, which means they've used their imagination. People like Abraham Lincoln and Albert Einstein and Martin Luther King Jr. So I wanted to work these thinkers into my video, and I wanted to use my own footage, which means I needed something a little bit more interesting than just a statue. There had to be movement. So I did my best in at least one shot with Albert Einstein to crawl up on the statue and to read. In the shot, I was reading the book Creativity by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and I read this book last week in preparation for making this video. Later in the day that we decided to take footage in the city, we went to the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and I was able to get some footage there as well. The way I spliced it together was as though those figures in the trenches and walking through the bushes were actually characters in the book I was reading. I'm not sure if that was totally evident, but that's what I was going for. So as I turn the page in the book, there's a new angle from the Korean War Memorial. Before going to the Veterans Memorial for the Korean War, we had walked by Constitution Gardens, and there's a pool there. And I wanted to take footage of the water, and because I had my boys with me, I asked them to throw rocks in the water, which they loved. And so once again, I wanted movement. I wanted there to be something in the shot. So you see the ripple effect of the water. And from the theoretical point of view, I thought I was going to incorporate Water and Dreams by Gaston Bachelard. It's this beautiful poetic reverie of the imagination, and he explores it through water as his creative heuristic. By then, my kids were tired and hungry and pretty miserable because we were out all day, and they're young. So we decided to head back home, and I did my best to make what I could out of what I had. And while I love the subject of the imagination, it was really, really difficult to write because I didn't know how to make the footage work with what I wanted to say. And my workflow the entire semester had been to read the book and then write the script and then find the images. So that was really challenging for me because I had pieced together the entire movie and then decided what I wanted to say. And I wasn't really sure how any of it was going to work, and I decided to throw in some of the jellyfish that we saw from the Baltimore Aquarium. At one point in the project, I was going to do a satire on how to destroy the imagination of your college student, and that was inspired by a book, How to Destroy the Imagination of Your Child. And in there, he talks about having a jellyfish imagination because you basically don't have any kind of grounding, which is also detrimental to imaginative thought and creative thought because there's nothing wrong with boundaries. as long as you understand those boundaries are arbitrary and conventional. So there you have a little bit of the behind the scenes and the making of the short film Imagination.